There are mysteries that hide in deep time enigmas so strange that even their silhouettes look like questions. Tonight we follow one of them, a creature with a neck like a drawn bow, a body balanced between land and sea. And a story that has confounded scientists for more than a century. Welcome to the Middle Triassic, to warm lagoon-dotted shores of the Tethys Ocean, where evolution, still reeling from Earth's greatest mass extinction, reinvented life with audacity and speed. In this world, a sea dinosaur haunts the shallows. A note before we dive in: scientists wouldn't call it a dinosaur. Dinosaurs dominated the land. In the sea, other reptiles wrote their own chapters, but popular imagination still whispers sea dinosaur, and we'll keep that whisper even as we meet the animal behind the legend, Tanystropheus, an evolutionary riddle whose neck alone could stretch as long as a person is tall, multiplied several times over. This is the story of the most mysterious sea dinosaur to have ever lived, how it came to be, how it hunted, why it puzzled generations, and what its existence tells us about our planet's capacity for rebirth. What makes a life form possible? Is it a formula of bones and breath, or the permission of a world willing to try new shapes? If survival is a conversation with time, then the Triassic was the loudest argument Earth ever hosted. Life versus loss, invention versus extinction, risk versus ruin. In the warm green-brown shallows of a sunlit lagoon, something waits still as driftwood, long as a small boat. Its head hovers just above the surface. Its eyes angle forward, its teeth shine like a comb of wet glass. Only after a minute does the water reveal a secret. This branch is attached to a body, the neck a living bridge between skull and torso. The whole animal a compromise between buoyancy and gravity. A school of silverfish flickers like a handful of thrown coins. The long head tilts, the water dimples. A lightning snap and the lagoon closes again around a ripple that spreads and fades. How do you live with a neck 3 meters long? How do you move it, feed it, defend it, and keep it safe from jaws that would gladly turn you into a memory? And why would evolution practical, pitiless, thrifty spend so much anatomy on a single vulnerable idea? Tonight we ask those questions. We walk the seafloor of time, and we follow a hunter built like a question mark. The Triassic period began about 252 million years ago. In the long shadow of catastrophe, the end Permian mass extinction, the Great Dying, had scoured the planet. Up to 9 out of 10 marine species vanished. On land, ecosystems collapsed. Oceans warmed and stagnated. Coastlines shifted, reefs withered, and then slowly, unevenly, life returned. In this fragile, opportunistic world, new experiments flourished. Early relatives of crocodiles patrolled riverbanks. The first true dinosaurs, small and quick, tested the margins of forests. And in the sea, where the slate had been wiped almost clean, reptiles surged into niches left empty. Sleek ichthyosaurs slicing offshore, broad-bodied placodonts crunching shellfish, nothosaurs weaving like living oars through sheltered flats. Here, in the shallow lagoons of the Tethys Ocean, the coastline broke into a mosaic of quiet basins and reef-fringed channels. One day, long after these waters vanished, those lagoons would be pressed upward into limestone mountains, ringing a future lake on the border of Switzerland and Italy, a place modern scientists call Monte San Giorgio. There, slabs of stone would archive a community: fishes, cephalopods, shelled insects, marine reptiles, and among them the long-necked puzzle we came to find. To call this animal a sea dinosaur is to let myth and memory blur. Technically, it belongs to a cousin branch Archosauromorphs outside the true dinosaurs. That's taxonomy. But in the mind's eye, as we watch it glide through Triassic light, the distinction softens. We're not here to police names. We're here to understand a life that shouldn't have worked but did. The bones tell us its world. The limestone speaks of warm, productive lagoons with rich plankton blooms, quiet muds, and the steady rain of shells. Predators like Nothosaurus lurked, long-toothed and flexible. Large fishes, including spear-mouthed Saurichthys, hunted like torpedoes. The water was not empty. It was crowded with opportunity and risk. Against that backdrop, one lineage stretched a single idea to the breaking point: reach without moving. And from that idea, Tanystropheus. Picture the animal. The body is not huge, barrel-chested, low-slung. With a long tail, the legs are neither fully flippers nor purely terrestrial limbs. They bear claws, suggesting competence on land, yet the joints and proportions whisper water. The skull is narrow, the snout tapered, the teeth conical and interlocking fishing tools, and then the neck. 13 enormous vertebrae, each one elongated like a blown glass bottle, chained end to end into a beam that projects the head far from the torso. Not dozens of small vertebrae like a swan's, but a few giant segments like bridge spans, stiff, limited in flexibility, more spear than snake. It is a design that defies intuition. How do you turn it? How do you keep it from snapping? The answer seems to have been strategy rather than speed. Tanistropheus does not whip its neck through the water like a heron. It waits, positions, and reduces the movement required to strike. If your reach already bridges the gap, you don't need to lunge, you only need to close your jaws. In the heat-white shallows, a large individual, let's call her the long one, rests, where the lagoon floor shelves into deeper green. Her body lies mostly hidden, shadowed by fronds of algae. The neck extends outward, suspended where water movement is slow and predictable. Tiny pulses from her throat tell us she's breathing at the surface through nostrils that lift just shy of the waterline. Every few seconds, her eyes large, forward placed, adjust to the flickering of fish. A shimmer to the right. The long one does not swim. She edits her position. A slow adjustment of tail, a minute flexion of limb. The head rotates by tens of degrees, not hundreds. The teeth part. There is a draw of water, a subtle vacuum as the jaws open, then a click of closure and a flurry of scales. She tilts, uses the long neck like a conveyor belt. And the prey slides back toward the body where muscles and ribs do the unseen work of swallowing. She has solved the next paradox. It is not a whip, it is a periscope, a fishing pole, a boom mic for hunger. And the world around her has evolved to tolerate the riddle, fish that cruise predictable lanes. Cephalopods that rise from deeper layers at dusk, smaller reptiles that stray too close to the silence of weeds. But prey is not the only variable. Tanistropheus lives under the eyes of larger mouths. Nothosaurus with its wide gape and needle teeth patrols the same embayments. Its body flexes like a trained ribbon. Its forelimbs become paddles at speed. When a nothosaur is hungry, the long one's remarkable neck looks less like a tool and more like an invitation. This is where strategy turns to geometry. The long one maintains a position where one quick fold of the neck can bring the head close to the torso, reducing the target silhouette. The vertebrae are stiff. Yes, but not immobile. Pivot points near the base allow the entire column to tuck just enough to deny an easy bite. When danger inches closer, the long one doesn't outswim it, she outthinks it, slide backward into deeper shadow. Press the neck along a rock to hide its outline. Align with the current so scent trails flow away. There are other options. On cooler mornings, the long one may haul her body onto a low, sun-warmed bank. Neck arched like a bridge to the water so she can return to safety in a heartbeat. The limbs, though not flippers, are strong. For short bursts on land, they will do. Now widen the lens. Tanistropheus was not a single identity. The Monte San Giorgio rocks reveal two sizes, two sets of proportions, a giant form often called Tanistropheus hydroides, and a smaller form traditionally Tanistropheus longobardicus. For decades, paleontologists debated. Were these the same species, male and female, or different species with different lifestyles? The teeth and skull shapes hint at divergent diets. The big ones, like our long one, bear strong conical teeth suited to grasping fish and cephalopods. The small ones sport subtler differences that may reflect different prey, perhaps crustaceans or smaller fishes along the margins. A lagoon can support multiple ways of making a living if each way avoids the others just enough. The mystery of Tanistropheus is not only why the neck, it's how many solutions that neck enabled. A day in the life. Morning sun climbs, the water warms to a greenish gold. The long one cruises, if we can call it that, by letting small strokes of the tail and limbs adjust her drift. She isn't built for distance, she is built for presence. She spends far more time not moving than moving. In the littoral zone, where plants sway and invertebrates sift the mud, she stakes out 2, maybe 3 feeding stations. At each, the ritual repeats: heads up, align with the flow, watch for glints, midday heat peaks. The shallows grow risky as large predators patrol. The long one shifts to deeper ledges, neck angled downward now. The head hovering above a cloud of fry sheltering under overhangs. A dart, a snap, a shake, another meal is solved with millimeters rather than meters. Above, the surface ripples in rows, a Saurictus streaks past. Elongated and dart-like, its hunt is speed. The long one's is patience. They pass within a body length, each ignoring the other's strategy as if it were a different physics. Evening dusk draws vertical migration from deeper water. Small squid and cephalopods rise toward the light's last footprint. This is the long one's most profitable hour. The neck extends horizontally, then tilts. The jaws open slightly as she pulls water across sensitive tissues in the mouth-tasting motion. When the cephalopod drifts into the strike zone, there is no dramatic lunge, only a crisp closure and the dark ink bloom of a life that missed the shape in the weeds. Every scene raises the same question: why not just shorten the neck and swim closer? The answer is hidden in trade-offs. Swimming costs energy, closing the gap creates a wake. A quick body lunge telegraphs intent to skittish prey. A long, stiff reach allows a predator to intercept rather than chase to let the water deliver food into a waiting geometry of bone. Yet the design isn't free. A long neck is vulnerable to fracture. It requires strong ligaments, specialized blood flow, and careful balance. It constrains how you turn, how you rest, how you escape. Tanystropheus lived by a rule we recognize in our own inventions. An extreme tool amplifies performance if you build your life around it. Was Tanystropheus fully marine or amphibious in habit? The evidence leans toward a shoreline specialist. The limbs retain joints and claws for traction. The trunk skeleton suggests a body that could bear its own weight, at least briefly. Eggs, like other reptiles of the time, almost certainly had to be laid on land. Perhaps the long one hauled out on secluded banks to bask, shed, or breed. Perhaps she followed tides up into quieter pools where small fish became trapped as water receded. Imagine a moonlit strand. The long one, heavy and cautious, drags herself up a slope of damp sand, the tail etching a double groove. She pauses mid-beach, neck coiled along her side like a drawn rope, and waits for heat to soak into muscle. Then, as night deepens and the air cools, she slides down again into the safety of the familiar medium water, where her strange body makes sense. To understand the long neck, we go bone by bone. 13 cervical vertebrae, fewer than a swan's, far longer than a giraffe's. Each vertebra is stretched, with elongated centra and neural spines, and connected by interlocking joints that trade flexibility for strength. Tendons and ligaments, once flesh, now inferred from muscle scars, ran like guy wires along the top and sides. The result is more cantilevered beam than whipcord. Where a snake's neck flows, Tanystropheus holds. The skull speaks of diet: long, narrow jaws, conical teeth that mesh like a cage, nares positioned toward the tip of the snout, large orbits for eyes. This is a fish encephalopod toolkit: seize, hold, swallow. No crushing molars for clams, no slicing carinae for tearing flesh. If you could scale the animal, the bite would feel like an iron rake clamping a slippery bar of soap. But evolution does not design tools in a vacuum. It inherits and modifies. Tanystropheus belongs to a wider Triassic radiation of long-necked and semi-aquatic reptiles. Some, like nothosaurs, pushed their limbs toward paddles. Others, like early ichthyosaurs, abandoned limbs for fins entirely and found speed in open water. Tanystropheus stopped short of those extremes. It held onto a body that could still interact with land and a neck that let it dominate a narrow band of habitat where stealth and reach beat speed. How did such a plan evolve? Stepwise, likely. A slightly longer neck confers a small advantage in snagging prey from concealment. Natural selection preserves it. Over generations, the bones lengthen. Muscles and ligaments adapt. The entire organism reorganizes around a new center of mass and a new risk profile. Every improvement demanded compensations: stronger connective tissues, refined control of head posture, probably a specialized cardiovascular system to maintain blood pressure across the neck span. The price of this innovation was commitment. Once your lineage builds a living spear from vertebrae, turning back is difficult. So Tanystropheus doubled down, not just anatomically but ecologically, choosing hunting grounds that favored stillness, investing in behaviors that protected the neck from accidents, synchronizing feeding with calm water and predictable prey. Even the best design meets its limits. Weather shifts, tides surge, predators grow bold. And across the long arc of the Triassic, the world changes. Sea levels breathe, basins open and close, competitors innovate. New predators enter the shallows. One day in our lagoon, gray clouds thicken. A wind from the open tethys pushes chop into the once glassy coves. The long one holds her position, but the water, full of suspended grit, robs her of sight. Her strategy, precision, and stillness falters in turbulence. A shadow slides up current. Nothosaurus, curious and hungry, the geometry that protects her suddenly turns against her, offering a long, narrow target limbed by drifting silt. At moments like this, the long one must pick from a short menu of imperfect options. Retreat to shore and risk exposure, tuck the neck and dive to depth with a body not built for sustained pursuit. Freeze and hope misdirection wins. Survival will require a decision measured not in meters but in degrees. How far to fold, how quickly to pivot, how much to bet on invisibility. We'll step into that crisis, her narrowest escapes. The evidence from fossils that record bones broken and healed, and the bigger planetary turns that ultimately sealed the fate of her lineage. When we continue. The Triassic Lagoon is not a museum, it is a workshop. Every living shape here is a draft, some destined for the shredder of extinction, some for the long print run of deep time. Tanystropheus looks improbable today because we live with the edited version of Earth. But in the raw manuscript of recovery, its body made a kind of sense that still glints at the edge of our understanding. What makes a life form possible? Not only bones and breath, also a world that allows boldness. After the greatest loss our planet ever suffered, the seas did not simply refill, they reimagined what a hunter could be. In that act of reinvention, a long-necked reptile found a way to stand still and reach further than its rivals, proof that evolution's strangest questions can become answers. At least for a while. The Triassic world was ever-changing. The seas could be as tempestuous as the skies, and with change came risk. Every adaptation, every advantage came with its own cost. For Tanystropheus, the price of survival was constant vigilance against predators, against the shifting tides, and even against its own unique body plan. One quiet afternoon, as the water hummed with plankton blooms, a ripple disturbed the surface. The stillness of the lagoon fractured as a dark shape emerged from the deeper water. Nothosaurus. With its streamlined body and powerful limbs, the Nothosaur was a swift predator, a true predator of the shallow seas. Its head, with sharp forward-facing teeth, was built for aggression, and it knew no hesitation in its hunt. For Tanystropheus, this was a dangerous moment. Its long neck, while a marvel of evolution, was a liability in the face of such a fast and powerful predator. The long one had perfected the art of evasion in the depths, where her body would blend seamlessly into the shadows, but here in the shallows she was far from safe. The Nothosaurus lunged, its jaws snapping open with alarming speed. It was a classic predator's move. Quick, decisive, and meant to overwhelm. But the long one, sensing the danger, had already calculated her response. She flexed her long neck back towards her body, reducing her profile. Instead of retreating or risking a desperate flight, she relied on her ability to disappear, to become less a target and more a mirage. Her movements were slow but deliberate, positioning herself against a cluster of rocks near the shallows. The Nothosaurus hesitated, its sharp eyes scanning the water, unsure of the long one's location. The creature's instincts screamed for speed, but the situation demanded patience. The predator did not give up, but neither did the long one, who knew the price of revealing her form. It was a battle of wits, each move calculated, each moment a game of inches. The Nothosaurus, though strong, was not designed for prolonged battles of ambush. And so, as the long one edged back into deeper waters, the predator withdrew, perhaps not defeated, but certainly uncertain. That day, the Tanystropheus had won, not through speed or power, but through its own unique design, a long neck that, when folded or hidden, could turn a possible death sentence into an opportunity for survival. As the day stretched into dusk, the long one-armed Tanystropheus moved gracefully through the waters once again. Its neck, which had caused so much wonder and confusion for paleontologists, was now its greatest asset in the delicate balance of life in the Triassic seas. The long-necked reptile had a place in this world, carved out by evolution, refined by countless generations of trial and error. But its time was fleeting. The Triassic world was not static, and neither were the challenges it faced. As the seas shifted and new threats emerged, Tanystropheus would face new competitors and new dangers. The animals of the Triassic were locked in an ever-changing battle to adapt, survive, and reproduce. The story of Tanystropheus isn't just one of evolution, it's a reminder that life is constantly testing the limits of possibility. The long neck, which once seemed like an oddity, was a solution that worked in the right place at the right time. But nature's clock keeps ticking, and every solution can be undone by the changing tides of time. For all its beauty, for all its mystery, Tanystropheus is not just a strange dinosaur of the seas, it is an answer to a question about life's ability to thrive in the face of the unknown. Its design was not perfect, nor was it permanent. Yet for millions of years it ruled the shallow lagoons of the Triassic with an elegance that defied the expectations of modern science. What can we learn from Tanystropheus? Maybe it's the idea that evolution at its core isn't about perfection, it's about finding solutions that work for this moment, for this environment, against this particular threat. Its long neck wasn't a flaw. It was a masterstroke in a world of trial and error, of victories and defeats. As we stand at the threshold of the future, we are still living in a world of constant change. The seas are still filled with mysteries, and the animals that roam it are still writing their own stories, one species at a time, each one playing its part in the vast, interconnected web of life. And just like Tanystropheus, we are constantly seeking answers to the question of what makes us survive, what makes us thrive, and how we navigate the ever-changing world around us. The story of Tanistropheus is not just the story of a single animal, it is the story of life itself, a life that adapts, that evolves, that changes in the face of adversity. It is a reminder that nature's solutions are often the result of necessity, and sometimes those solutions are more beautiful and surprising than we could ever imagine. The Tanistropheus is an evolutionary puzzle, a riddle wrapped in bone and flesh. Its neck, by far its most famous feature, wasn't just long, it was impractical by many measures. Every inch of its stretched vertebrae seemed to demand an explanation that science couldn't easily provide. Yet as we've seen, this was no mistake of nature. It was an answer to an ancient problem, a solution that worked in its own strange way. Let's take a closer look at the bones, at the design itself. To understand Tanistropheus, we need to dissect the anatomy of its neck, a structure so unlike any modern-day creature that it challenges our expectations of what a living organism should look like. First, there is the neck itself. Comprising up to 13 cervical vertebrae, Tanistropheus's neck was one of the longest of any vertebrate relative to body size. But this wasn't a graceful swan's neck or the flexible neck of a modern-day giraffe. This was a stiff, rigid, beam and elongated column that was as awkward as it was effective. Each vertebra was elongated and fused together to give the neck its remarkable length, yet it sacrificed flexibility. Unlike creatures that can easily whip their heads around, Tanistropheus could only move its neck within strict limits. The vertebrae had a high degree of stability and strength, but at the cost of agility. There was no snaking or twisting, only a limited range of motion that could either be adjusted or reduced depending on the needs of the moment. This rigidity likely played an essential role in Tanistropheus's feeding strategy, where an ambushed predator would carefully position itself in shallow waters, waiting for prey to swim into range. The animal's skull, long and narrow, was equally fascinating. Its teeth were conical, designed for gripping rather than tearing or crushing. They were the tools of a predator that didn't chase, but rather intercepted and snatched prey from the water. The skull, too, was lightweight, perhaps reducing the strain on the long neck, allowing it to hold its position in the water without excessive effort. When you combine the body, the limbs, and the neck, it becomes clear that Tanistropheus was built for stealth and precision. It could extend its neck with an almost unnatural reach, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This wasn't a creature that rushed. Everything about its anatomy was designed for stillness, patience, and a sudden lightning-fast attack. But there was one crucial element missing from its anatomy: the ability to truly swim like an ichthyosaur or a modern dolphin. The limbs of Tanistropheus were not adapted for the efficient paddling of a fully aquatic creature. Instead, they retained land-like features with claws and joints that suggested the animal could support itself on land for short periods. The Tanistropheus was in many ways a hybrid, equally at home in shallow waters, but capable of hauling itself onto the shore when needed. The anatomy of Tanistropheus suggests that it lived in a world of transitions. Its long neck, its land-capable limbs, and its aquatic hunting strategy created an animal that moved between two realms: water and land. But how did this hybrid lifestyle affect its life cycle, its growth, and its place in the ecosystem? In the Triassic period, life wasn't just about survival. Tanistropheus was part of a rich, vibrant ecosystem that had to navigate the delicate balance of the post-extinction world. The waters were teeming with new life, and every creature had to find its place within that framework. The Tanistropheus was not born with the long neck that made it famous. Like all reptiles, it began as a hatchling, a small, fragile creature that had to grow into its unique body. The journey from hatchling to adult would have taken several years, and during this time, the Tanistropheus would have faced a series of environmental pressures. As a juvenile, it would have needed to avoid larger predators like the Nothosaurus and the Saurecthis, while also learning how to hunt in the crowded waters of the Triassic. As it grew, its neck would have lengthened. And with that length came new challenges. The juvenile Tanistropheus would likely have started with shorter hunting trips, using its developing neck for basic foraging in the shallows, perhaps targeting smaller fish or crustaceans. But as its neck grew, so did its ability to reach further and strike faster. What we know about Tanistropheus's life cycle comes from fossils, some of which suggest that this reptile lived for several years before reaching its full adult size. The fossil record hints that the creature's early years may have been spent largely in the shallows, where the dangers of predation were less severe. As the animal matured, it likely ventured deeper into the more treacherous waters, where its unique abilities gave it an edge over its competitors. But Tanistropheus wasn't just a lone predator. It was part of an ecosystem, and its life cycle was deeply entwined with the environment around it. The changing tides, the shifting waters, and the seasonal migrations of prey all played a role in the creature's growth and survival. The evolution of Tanystropheus was a response to these pressures, its long neck an adaptation to a world in flux. The Tanystropheus didn't live in isolation. It was part of a complex web of life in the Triassic seas, and its role in that ecosystem was multifaceted. Its long neck made it a master of ambush, a predator that could wait patiently for hours, if not days, before striking. But in the ever-changing world of the Triassic, even such a sophisticated hunter had to adapt to shifts in the environment. To understand Tanystropheus, we need to dissect the anatomy of its neck, a structure so unlike any modern-day creature that it challenges our expectations of what a living organism should look like. First, there is the neck itself. Comprising up to 13 cervical vertebrae, Tanystropheus's neck was one of the longest of any vertebrate relative to body size. But this wasn't a graceful swan's neck or the flexible neck of a modern-day giraffe. This was a stiff, rigid, beam and elongated column that was as awkward as it was effective. Each vertebra was elongated and fused together to give the neck its remarkable length, yet it sacrificed flexibility. Unlike creatures that can easily whip their heads around, Tanystropheus could only move its neck within strict limits. The vertebrae had a high degree of stability and strength, but at the cost of agility. There was no snaking or twisting, only a limited range of motion that could either be adjusted or reduced depending on the needs of the moment. This rigidity likely played an essential role in Tanystropheus's feeding strategy, where an ambush predator would carefully position itself in shallow waters, waiting for prey to swim into range. The animal's skull, long and narrow, was equally fascinating. Its teeth were conical, designed for gripping rather than tearing or crushing. They were the tools of a predator that didn't chase, but rather intercepted and snatched prey from the water. The skull, too, was lightweight, perhaps reducing the strain on the long neck, allowing it to hold its position in the water without excessive effort. When you combine the body, the limbs, and the neck, it becomes clear that Tanystropheus was built for stealth and precision. It could extend its neck with an almost unnatural reach, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This wasn't a creature that rushed. Everything about its anatomy was designed for stillness, patience, and a sudden lightning-fast attack. But there was one crucial element missing from its anatomy: the ability to truly swim like an ichthyosaur or a modern dolphin. The limbs of Tanystropheus were not adapted for the efficient paddling of a fully aquatic creature. Instead, they retained land-like features with claws and joints that suggested the animal could support itself on land for short periods. The Tanystropheus was in many ways a hybrid, equally at home in shallow waters, but capable of hauling itself onto the shore when needed. One key to Tanystropheus's success was its ability to capitalize on the changing conditions of the shallow waters. As tides shifted and smaller fish moved in and out of the lagoons, Tanystropheus could adjust its position, using its neck like a fishing pole to target whatever prey was available at the time. Its diet likely included small fish, cephalopods, and crustaceans, any creature that strayed too close to the deceptive stillness of the water's surface. Its role in the ecosystem was not solely as a predator, however. Tanystropheus was also prey, though less frequently. Larger predators, including Nothosaurus and potentially Sauryctus, would have been a constant threat. In this context, the Tanystropheus's long neck served not only as a weapon but as a defense, a way to stay out of the reach of predators and to evade detection. The Tanystropheus lived in a world where every creature was either a hunter or a hunted, and every day was a battle for survival. Its long neck, while an extraordinary tool for feeding, also made it vulnerable. The balance between risk and reward was finely tuned, and it's likely that Tanystropheus had to change its tactics as the environment around it shifted. All things in life, whether land-dwelling or marine, have their end, and so it was with Tanystropheus. The end of the Triassic period heralded new shifts in the Earth's climate, ecosystems, and oceans. Rising sea levels, new predators, and changes in ocean chemistry spelled the eventual decline of many Triassic marine reptiles, including Tanystropheus. The geological record suggests that over time, species with more streamlined bodies and specialized marine adaptations like the ichthyosaurs began to dominate, while animals like Tanystropheus, which were built for a more hybrid lifestyle, found themselves at a disadvantage. But Tanystropheus left behind a legacy that lives on in the fossils and bones scattered across the world. Its strange body, its long rigid neck, and partially aquatic lifestyle remains a symbol of the incredible flexibility and diversity of life that emerged in the wake of Earth's greatest extinction. Its story, buried deep in the rock, is a testament to nature's boundless creativity. Though Tanystropheus no longer roams the waters of the Triassic, its memory survives in the fossil record and continues to captivate scientists and curious minds alike. In the modern world, Tanystropheus holds a special place in paleontological studies. It is an example of nature's ability to innovate, pushing the boundaries of what we thought possible in prehistoric life. The scientific community's fascination with this enigmatic reptile stems not just from its long neck, but from its ecological adaptability and its unique position in the evolutionary timeline. What makes Tanystropheus so intriguing to paleontologists is its hybrid nature. It existed during a time when the planet was still recovering from one of the most devastating extinction events ever recorded. Life was in a period of experimentation, and Tanystropheus is a prime example of how evolution can take unexpected paths. Today, scientists debate the exact role of Tanystropheus in its ecosystem. Some argue that it was a primarily aquatic predator, spending most of its time in the shallow waters, hunting smaller fish and cephalopods. Others propose that it was a semi-aquatic animal, frequently hauling itself onto land, much like the modern-day crocodile or sea turtles. Both hypotheses make sense when considering the structure of its body. Its long, powerful limbs were perfectly adapted to swim, but they also allowed the creature to traverse land in search of shelter, mates, or perhaps a temporary respite from larger predators. What's more, Tanystropheus's long neck has provided some of the most debated and controversial insights into evolutionary processes. Its existence has led to a rethinking of how long-necked reptiles might have evolved. The length of the neck, while impressive, didn't evolve to provide flexibility or for purely visual advantage. It was an evolutionary tool designed for ambush hunting in shallow waters. This revolutionary approach to feeding strategies was only fully appreciated once scientists closely examined the fossil record. Comparing Tanystropheus with its close relatives like Nothosaurus and other Triassic reptiles. Today, Tanystropheus is still a topic of ongoing research, and every new fossil discovered adds another layer to the mystery of its existence. More complete fossils with better preserved bones have provided essential insights into its skeletal structure. Each new find informs theories about its physical characteristics and its life history. Recent technological advances, including 3D scanning and digital reconstruction, have allowed paleontologists to better understand the biomechanics of Tanystropheus. With digital tools, they've reconstructed the creature's musculature, ligament placements, and joint functions. These reconstructions suggest that the animal's neck, though long and seemingly awkward, was capable of fine-tuned movements, which allowed the predator to strike with precision. The more scientists can visualize and recreate the behavior of Tanystropheus, the closer they come to solving the puzzle of its existence. The mystery of Tanystropheus is far from solved, and it continues to captivate both paleontologists and the public. It forces us to consider just how many more ancient life forms exist in the fossil record, waiting to tell their stories, waiting to challenge our preconceived notions of evolution, adaptation, and survival. To truly understand the legacy of Tanystropheus, we must place it within the broader narrative of evolution. This creature, with its strange long neck and semi-aquatic lifestyle, is a link in the complex chain of life that stretches back millions of years. The Triassic period was a time of profound transformation. Life, still recovering from the mass extinction at the end of the Permian, began to fill the vast ecological voids left behind by the demise of many prehistoric creatures. The dinosaurs were not the only group of animals making a comeback. Reptiles of all shapes and sizes were evolving to take on new roles in the ecosystem. Tanystropheus was part of this evolutionary renaissance. Its design, one of nature's grand experiments, contributed to a growing understanding of how animals adapted to their environment. The existence of Tanystropheus marked an important point in the diversification of marine reptiles. It wasn't the only species of the time to evolve such strange traits, but its longevity and specialization allowed it to survive in a very competitive world. The Triassic period is often described as the dawn of the Mesozoic era, a time when life, still recovering from disaster, began to evolve at an accelerated rate. This period saw the emergence of new reptiles, early dinosaurs, first mammals, and first flying vertebrates. Among these, Tanystropheus stands out because it represents a unique branch of reptilian evolution, a branch that took its time to adapt to life in the shallow waters, testing the boundaries of what a predator could achieve with an unconventional body design. The legacy of Tanystropheus is not just in the fossil record, it's also in the lessons it teaches us about evolution. Its long neck didn't evolve because it was the most efficient or the most practical solution to the demands of its environment. Rather, it was a solution that worked for a time in a very specific set of conditions. And that is the beauty of evolution. It's not about perfection. It's about the ability to adapt to what is needed when it's needed. As we look back at the creatures of the Triassic, we can see how they laid the groundwork for the evolution of future species. The Tanystropheus may no longer roam the seas, but its legacy can be seen in the design of other marine reptiles that followed, like the ichthyosaurs, which would go on to dominate the oceans in the later Mesozoic era. In that sense, Tanystropheus played its part in shaping the trajectory of life on Earth, helping to open new paths for future generations of reptiles and other creatures. Its place in evolutionary history is undeniable. All things come to an end, and for Tanystropheus, the end came as the Triassic period gave way to the Jurassic period, a time of tremendous environmental and ecological change. As the world continued to warm, new predators and competitors emerged, challenging the long-necked reptiles' place in the ecosystem. One of the key factors in the extinction of Tanystropheus was the changing climate. The oceans began to undergo significant shifts, with water chemistry changing and sea levels rising and falling unpredictably. These shifts would have disrupted the ecosystems in which Tanystropheus thrived. The once abundant prey species that lived in the shallow waters began to migrate or evolve in new ways, and the environment that supported Tanystropheus gradually disappeared. But climate wasn't the only challenge facing Tanystropheus. As the Jurassic period approached, new species of marine reptiles began to evolve with more efficient hunting strategies and anatomical features designed specifically for life in the water. The ichthyosaurs, with their streamlined bodies and powerful fins, became the dominant predators of the seas, leaving creatures like Tanystropheus with fewer and fewer niches to occupy. It was likely a combination of these factors: climate change, competition, and the changing environment that led to the eventual extinction of Tanystropheus. The world that had allowed it to thrive for millions of years was no longer the world it knew. Adaptation, it seemed, had reached its limit. But despite its disappearance, Tanystropheus left behind a profound legacy in the fossil record. It stood as a testament to the creativity of nature and the unpredictable path that life can take. The story of Tanystropheus is far from just a tale of a long-extinct creature. It is a story about adaptation, evolution, and the unpredictable ways life finds to thrive. This strange, long-necked reptile challenges us to think differently about life on Earth and the power of evolution to create unexpected solutions to life's challenges. In many ways, the mystery of Tanystropheus is a reflection of the ongoing mystery of life itself. As scientists continue to uncover the secrets of our planet's ancient past, they find that the more they learn, the more questions arise. Every fossil, every bone, every mystery uncovered reveals more about the planet we live on and the life forms that came before us. As we stand on the shores of this ancient world, gazing at the fossils of creatures like Tanystropheus, we are reminded that the story of life on Earth is still unfolding. The mysteries of the past are not just for scientists to solve, they are there to remind us of the infinite possibilities that nature offers. In the end, Tanystropheus was not just a creature of the Triassic, it was an experiment in life itself, a living question that helped to shape the world we know today. The fossil record is a time capsule, a direct link to life forms that lived millions of years ago. For paleontologists, it is both a treasure and a puzzle. With each fossil, they uncover more of the story: who these animals were, what they looked like, how they behaved. And yet the fossils often leave us with more questions than answers. The Tanystropheus fossils found in Monte San Giorgio have been some of the most revealing in the study of Triassic marine life. The fossils there have provided crucial insights into the anatomy and life history of this enigmatic reptile, allowing scientists to piece together its physical appearance, its environment, and its way of life. Monte San Giorgio, located on the borders of Switzerland and Italy, has long been known as a paleontological hotspot. It's here that some of the most significant discoveries in Triassic paleontology have been made. The fossil beds are rich with a wide variety of marine reptiles, fish, and other creatures that inhabited the Tethys Sea during the Triassic. And among the fossils found here, the Tanystropheus stands out, not just because of its size, but because of its unique and peculiar anatomy. The preservation of the Tanystropheus fossils at Monte San Giorgio has been exceptional. Many of the skeletons found here are remarkably complete, with well-preserved vertebrae, skulls, and limbs. Some of these fossils show signs of healed injuries, suggesting that Tanystropheus was not only able to survive in a dangerous environment, but also had the resilience to overcome significant challenges. These injuries are a fascinating glimpse into the struggles this reptile faced, perhaps from predators, perhaps from other environmental hazards. For paleontologists, the Tanystropheus fossils at Monte San Giorgio have provided a revolutionary understanding of the creature's life. The long neck was once thought to be an odd, almost impossible feature, but these fossils have shown just how practical it was for ambush feeding. The stiff vertebrae allowed the animal to remain still in the water for extended periods, waiting for prey to come within reach. The fossils also suggest that the Tanystropheus had a relatively slow metabolic rate, which allowed it to conserve energy during long periods of inactivity. However, Tanystropheus was not alone in these ancient seas. The fossil record from Monte San Giorgio reveals a diverse ecosystem with a variety of creatures that coexisted and interacted in ways that we are only beginning to understand. Alongside Tanystropheus, other marine reptiles such as Nothosaurus and Ichthyosaurs swam the seas, each with their own unique adaptations. While Tanystropheus was built for stillness and ambush, Nothosaurus was more agile, using its powerful limbs to chase down prey in the shallow waters. Ichthyosaurs, on the other hand, were more fully aquatic, resembling modern dolphins in their design, built for speed and efficiency in the open ocean. The discovery of these fossils has allowed scientists to reconstruct the relationships between these different species. It is now understood that Tanystropheus, with its long neck, was likely able to exploit a niche that was not being used by the more agile predators. Its prey, small fish and cephalopods, were abundant in the shallows, but only a few animals were able to reach into the deeper waters where these creatures could hide. Tanystropheus, with its long neck and ambush tactics, was perfectly suited for this task. When we look at the fossils of Tanystropheus, we don't just see a collection of bones. We see clues to how it lived, how it behaved, and how it interacted with its environment. While fossilized bones give us a sense of what the creature looked like, they also hold clues about its daily life, its behavior, its interactions with other species, and its role in the ecosystem. The most striking feature of Tanystropheus is undoubtedly its neck. But this feature tells us more than just an unusual anatomical trait. It speaks volumes about the creature's feeding strategy and behavior. The long neck, which was likely used to reach into crevices or ambush prey from a distance, suggests that Tanystropheus spent much of its time motionless, blending into its environment and waiting for prey to come near. This behavior would have been similar to modern-day ambush predators such as crocodiles or certain species of herons. Tanystropheus likely hunted in the shallow waters of the Triassic seas. Its long neck allowed it to hide in the aquatic vegetation or near the rocks, waiting for smaller fish or cephalopods to come within range. Once in position, Tanystropheus would extend its neck, grab its prey, and quickly return to its position of concealment. This would allow it to hunt without expending much energy or revealing its location to larger predators. But Tanystropheus didn't just live in the water. It likely hauled itself out onto the land at times, perhaps to bask in the sun, rest, or lay eggs. Its limbs suggest it was capable of limited movement on land, though it was certainly not as comfortable or agile as some of its more fully terrestrial cousins. When on land, Tanystropheus would have been vulnerable to predators, and it would have had to rely on its ability to stay hidden or quickly return to the water for safety. The Triassic period was marked by dramatic changes both in the environment and in the creatures that inhabited the planet. During this time, the world was recovering from the Permian-Triassic Extinction Event, which wiped out an estimated 90% of all species on Earth. In this period of recovery, animals like Tanystropheus had the opportunity to evolve and diversify. But as the world continued to change, the environment began to shift in ways that made survival increasingly difficult for Tanystropheus. Tanystropheus was a creature perfectly adapted to a specific set of conditions. Its long neck was a tool designed for ambush hunting in the shallow waters of the Triassic seas. However, as the climate warmed and sea levels fluctuated, these shallow habitats began to disappear. The once abundant prey species, such as small fish and cephalopods, either adapted to new conditions or migrated to different areas, leaving Tanystropheus with fewer resources to sustain itself. At the same time, new predators were emerging. The ichthyosaurs, with their streamlined bodies and speed, began to dominate the oceans, outcompeting Tanystropheus for prey. These predators were not only faster and more agile, but also better suited for life in the open ocean, where Tanystropheus's long neck would have been a disadvantage. The rise of ichthyosaurs and other marine reptiles meant that Tanystropheus's ability to survive in the Triassic seas began to wane, as the environment shifted and competitors became more numerous. Tanystropheus found itself struggling to adapt. Its reliance on shallow waters and its peculiar anatomy, which was ideal for one ecological niche, became increasingly unsuitable for the changing conditions of the Jurassic period. This pattern is not uncommon in the history of life on Earth. As ecosystems evolve and change, some species become obsolete while others evolve to take their place. For Tanystropheus, its time in the spotlight was short-lived, and eventually it faded from the fossil record, outcompeted by faster, more specialized predators. However, Tanystropheus left behind a lasting legacy in the study of marine reptiles. Its peculiar body, its hybrid lifestyle, and its role in the early evolution of Triassic marine ecosystems helped to shape the future of marine reptile evolution. As we look to the future of paleontology, the story of Tanystropheus offers a fascinating glimpse into the ongoing search for answers in the fossil record. With each new discovery, scientists are unlocking more secrets about the world in which Tanystropheus lived. The future of paleontology is driven by technological advances that allow us to peer deeper into the past than ever before. CT scans, 3D imaging, and genetic analysis are transforming our understanding of ancient life, offering insights that were once unimaginable. In the coming decades, new discoveries and advancements in technology will continue to deepen our understanding of ancient species like Tanystropheus. As we explore new fossil sites, use cutting-edge tools to analyze old specimens, and develop new methods to study ancient DNA, we will continue to unravel the mysteries of the past. Tanystropheus may be gone, but the story of its life continues to inspire new generations of scientists. Its strange long neck, its hybrid lifestyle, and its place in the ancient oceans remain as fascinating as ever, pushing us to rethink what is possible in the natural world. It is a reminder that life is not static, it is an ever-changing force, always adapting, always evolving. The Tanystropheus was far from the only remarkable creature that inhabited the waters of the Triassic seas. While it remains one of the most enigmatic, it shared its habitat with a host of other marine reptiles, each one a product of the unique and rapidly changing environment following the Permian-Triassic Extinction Event. In the waters of the Triassic, Nothosaurus, Placodonts, and the early Ichthyosaurs were all vying for dominance. These reptiles, though all part of the same general group, represented different evolutionary solutions to the challenges posed by a recovering planet. Nothosaurus, for example, had a similar body type to Tanystropheus but had fully adapted to aquatic life, with paddle-like limbs and a more streamlined body. It was a more efficient swimmer, able to pursue fast-moving prey. Unlike Tanystropheus, whose long neck limited its ability to chase, the Placodonts, another group of marine reptiles, were built for a very different purpose. They had flat, crushing teeth, ideal for breaking hard shells and eating mollusks, a resource Tanystropheus could not exploit. The diverse animals of the Triassic waters each represented a different adaptation to the challenges they faced, and they all interacted within the same ecosystem. In this complex world, Tanystropheus found its place. It may not have been the fastest nor the strongest, but its ambush predator lifestyle, coupled with its unique anatomical features, made it a successful predator for millions of years. But as the ecosystem evolved and more efficient predators like the Ichthyosaurs entered the picture, Tanystropheus found its ecological niche harder to maintain. Tanystropheus, with its long neck and peculiar body, represented a different evolutionary solution. While Ichthyosaurs and Nothosaurs were fast swimmers and effective hunters, Tanystropheus used its long neck to its advantage in a world where stillness and patience could be as effective as speed. It was an ambush predator, relying on its ability to hide in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. As the climate warmed and ocean conditions fluctuated, however, the environment began to change in ways that no longer favored the Tanystropheus. The rise of new predators and more efficient hunting strategies gradually edged it out of its position as a dominant marine predator. But the presence of Tanystropheus during the Triassic still left its mark on the paleontological record. The fossils of this strange reptile offer critical clues about the way marine reptiles evolved and adapted to the challenges of their environment. The evolutionary significance of Tanystropheus goes beyond its fascinating anatomy and peculiar lifestyle. Its very existence provides insight into the early stages of marine reptile evolution. The Triassic period, often referred to as the Age of Reptiles, saw the explosion of a wide variety of new species. These species, some of which would dominate the seas for millions of years, were the first reptiles to truly leave their mark on the oceans. Tanistropheus, with its bizarre features, is a link in the evolutionary chain, an animal that helps scientists understand the development of marine reptiles during this critical period. Its long neck is an adaptation not found in other modern-day reptiles. But similar traits would later appear in other species, suggesting that evolution sometimes follows parallel paths, even in separate lineages. In the early stages of marine reptile evolution, animals like Nothosaurus and Tanistropheus represented an intermediate stage between terrestrial reptiles and fully aquatic ones. These reptiles still retain some features of their land-dwelling ancestors, such as limbs capable of supporting their weight on land, but over time, more specialized reptiles emerged, animals like the ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs, which were fully adapted to life in the water. The long neck of Tanistropheus, though specialized, is a remarkable example of how evolutionary forces push organisms to adapt to their environments in creative ways. Its neck did not evolve for speed or power, but for reach, allowing Tanistropheus to exploit niches in shallow waters where few other animals could. Tanistropheus was not alone in its oddity. It was part of a wider world of marine reptiles that were experimenting with different body plans and strategies. While many of these animals evolved towards more streamlined bodies and faster movements, Tanistropheus took a different approach. Its long neck was a distinctive solution to the problem of hunting in the shallow seas of the Triassic. The extinction of Tanistropheus was not a single event, but rather a gradual decline over millions of years. As the Jurassic period began, the world changed in ways that affected all life on Earth. The climate warmed. Sea levels fluctuated and new predators appeared. For Tanistropheus, this shift was catastrophic. The Jurassic period was a time of evolutionary innovation. New groups of marine reptiles, such as the ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs, emerged as the dominant predators of the seas. These animals were faster, more efficient, and better adapted to the open ocean than the slower, more awkward Tanistropheus. As these new predators spread across the seas, they outcompeted the more specialized reptiles that had ruled the Triassic waters. At the same time, the environment continued to change. The rising sea levels and fluctuating temperatures of the Jurassic period caused shifts in the ecosystems that had once supported creatures like Tanistropheus. The shallow lagoons and calm waters that the Tanistropheus had once inhabited were replaced by more dynamic and turbulent ecosystems, which were better suited to the ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs. In this new world, Tanistropheus could not keep up. Its long neck, though an advantage in the Triassic seas, became a liability in the face of these new challenges. The slow, patient hunting style that had once served it so well was no longer effective in the changing world of the Jurassic period. One of the most fascinating aspects of Tanistropheus is its long neck. To this day, scientists debate the purpose and origin of this extraordinary feature. The paradox of the Tanistropheus's neck is central to understanding its place in the evolutionary story. In most animals, long necks evolve for specific reasons, such as feeding in trees or reaching higher ground. But Tanistropheus's neck wasn't just long, it was stiff, unwieldy, and highly specialized. It wasn't designed for speed or agility, but rather for ambush hunting in shallow waters. Its neck allowed it to extend its reach and capture prey without moving its body. This adaptation made it an efficient predator, but it also raised new questions for scientists. Why did Tanistropheus evolve such an extreme feature? How did this long, stiff neck benefit its survival? The answer, it seems, lies in the specific conditions of the Triassic seas. The long neck was not just an evolutionary oddity, it was a specialized tool that allowed Tanistropheus to exploit a unique ecological niche. The shallow waters and abundant prey species created a perfect environment for this strange reptile, allowing it to thrive for millions of years. However, as the world changed and the Jurassic period began, Tanistropheus's long neck became a hindrance. It no longer provided the same advantage in the face of new predators and changing environmental conditions. In the end, the evolutionary path that had allowed Tanistropheus to survive the Triassic was not enough to carry it into the future. Tanistropheus is one of the most mysterious creatures ever to have inhabited the Earth. Its long neck, its peculiar lifestyle, and its place in the evolutionary timeline make it a fascinating subject of study for paleontologists. But beyond its anatomical features, Tanistropheus represents something deeper, the constant drive for adaptation and survival in a world that is always changing. Through its story, we are reminded of the power of evolution to create the most unexpected solutions to the challenges of life. The strange long neck of Tanistropheus is just one example of the endless possibilities that nature offers. And while Tanistropheus may no longer walk the Earth, its legacy lives on in the fossils it left behind, a reminder of a time when life once again rose from the ashes of extinction and found a way to thrive in a world that was constantly evolving. The Triassic period, though often overshadowed by the later eras of the dinosaurs, was a time of unparalleled innovation in the oceans. With the extinction of so many life forms during the Permian-Triassic extinction event, the seas were left empty. But in the wake of this mass extinction, the oceans would begin to fill again, teeming with new species, each one testing the boundaries of what was possible. The Tanystropheus emerged in this period of recovery, a time when the Tethys Sea was rich with new life forms, the shallow waters filled with reefs. Seaweed and small fish became a haven for early reptiles. In these warm waters, life flourished, experimenting with different body shapes, sizes, and strategies. And among them, Tanystropheus emerged as one of the most bizarre and fascinating animals of its time. In the Triassic oceans, the long neck of Tanystropheus was not an isolated feature but part of a wider array of adaptations. Animals like Nothosaurus and Placodons had also developed specialized forms to thrive in the waters. However, none were quite like Tanystropheus, whose long neck and semi-aquatic lifestyle set it apart from the others. Nothosaurus, for example, had a much more streamlined body and paddle-like limbs, making it a faster and more efficient swimmer. In contrast, Tanystropheus had a body built for stillness and precision. Its long neck was not an adaptation for speed or agility but for ambushing prey, waiting motionlessly as it targeted small fish and other creatures that strayed too close. Its long neck allowed it to reach into crevices or strike from angles that other predators could not, exploiting a niche that few others could. These differences in adaptation were not only fascinating from an evolutionary standpoint, but they also spoke to the changing conditions of the time. The ocean's ecosystems were still in a state of flux as new species emerged and older ones adapted or disappeared. The age of the reptilian renaissance was in full swing, and Tanystropheus was one of the animals that would help define this dynamic period. There is no question that Tanystropheus's most defining feature is its long neck. But this feature, which would seem an evolutionary oddity at first glance, was actually a masterstroke of adaptation. To understand this, we must dive deeper into the function of the long neck, the way it was used to survive in an ecosystem that was rapidly changing. The long neck of Tanystropheus was not simply an elongated structure. It was stiff, not flexible, with elongated vertebrae and a rigid spinal column, while other long-necked animals like the giraffe or swan have necks that are flexible and capable of sweeping motions. The Tanystropheus's neck was much more specialized. It was built for precision and reach, not for agility or speed. The stiffness of the neck may have prevented unnecessary movement, allowing the animal to stay perfectly still and wait for prey to come within range. Once within reach, the long neck could strike with startling speed and accuracy. But why evolve such an extraordinary structure? Why sacrifice the mobility of a flexible neck in favor of one that was long but inflexible? The answer lies in the ecological niche that Tanystropheus exploited. Unlike many other marine reptiles which use speed and agility to chase prey, Tanystropheus relied on patience. Its long neck allowed it to extend its reach into the dense aquatic vegetation or along the edges of underwater rock formations, where small fish and cephalopods hid. In these environments, Tanystropheus could sit motionless, blending into its surroundings, and wait for its prey to come close enough to be snatched in a single, precise strike. In a world where speed was often the key to survival, Tanystropheus's adaptation was a different kind of mastery. By embracing stillness, it was able to take advantage of its environment in ways other animals could not. This kind of niche specialization is one of the most remarkable features of Tanystropheus, as it shows the versatility of life and the countless ways animals adapt to their surroundings. The discovery of Tanystropheus fossils has provided us with a wealth of information about the creature. But these fossils have also revealed much about the world it inhabited. Fossils are the windows into the past, and Tanystropheus's fossils tell a story of life and death in the Triassic seas, a time when the Earth was just beginning to recover from one of the most catastrophic extinction events in history. The most notable fossil site for Tanystropheus is Monte San Giorgio, a location that has yielded some of the best preserved fossils from the Triassic period. The fossils found here have provided scientists with remarkably complete skeletons, some of which have preserved the long necks of Tanystropheus in stunning detail. These fossils have helped to unlock many of the secrets of Tanystropheus's anatomy, behavior, and ecological role. One of the most remarkable aspects of these fossils is their level of preservation. Many of the skeletons found at Monte San Giorgio are nearly complete, with well-preserved vertebrae, skulls, and even remnants of soft tissue. This level of preservation is rare in fossil records, especially for marine reptiles, making Tanystropheus a particularly valuable species for paleontologists studying the Triassic ecosystems. The Monte San Giorgio fossils have allowed scientists to reconstruct the anatomy of Tanystropheus with a degree of accuracy that would have been impossible even a few decades ago. Using advanced technologies such as CT scanning and digital modeling, researchers have been able to study the internal structures of Tanystropheus's bones, providing insights into how the long neck worked and how the animal moved through its environment. In addition to providing a wealth of information about the animal itself, these fossils also offer clues about the Triassic environment in which Tanystropheus lived. Fossilized remains of plants, fish, and other animals found alongside Tanystropheus provide a glimpse into the ecosystems of the time, showing the complex interactions between different species in the Tethys Sea. The Tanystropheus fossils, in many ways, serve as a time capsule, preserving a moment in history that would otherwise be lost. The long neck of Tanystropheus continues to be one of the most debated aspects of its biology. While the basic function of the neck ambush predation seems clear, many questions remain about the evolutionary origins of this feature. Why did Tanystropheus develop such a long neck? Why did this feature evolve at all, given the potential disadvantages it posed in terms of flexibility and speed? One possible explanation is that the long neck of Tanystropheus was a unique solution to the problem of hunting in shallow waters, where prey often hides in the vegetation or under rocks. The long neck allowed Tanystropheus to extend its reach and ambush prey without revealing its location. This adaptation was specialized for a particular environment where stillness and patience were key to survival. Another possibility is that the long neck of Tanystropheus evolved as part of a wider trend in Triassic reptiles, where long necks began to appear in different species. The appearance of long necks in other Triassic reptiles, such as Nothosaurus and Ichthyosaurs, suggests that there was a selective advantage to having a longer neck in certain environments. However, Tanystropheus took this adaptation to an extreme, developing a neck that was much longer than that of its relatives. As paleontologists continue to study Tanystropheus, new theories may emerge about the true purpose of its long neck. What is clear is that Tanystropheus was an extraordinary animal, one that pushed the limits of what was possible in evolution. Its long neck was not a flaw, but rather a specialized tool that allowed it to thrive in an ever-changing world.